First story, I cut ties with my family after they physically assaulted me and kicked me out of the house, believing my cousin's false saw accusations. Now, 5 years later, they contacted me to reconcile. Looking back, I don't think I'll ever forget the sheer whiplash of that moment, how my entire life collapsed in mere minutes. 1 second, I was just in my room scrolling through my phone like any normal day. The next, my aunt had stormed into our house like a lunatic, grabbed me by the collar, and slapped me so hard I thought my teeth might come loose. I barely had time to register the pain before she started screaming, her voice raw with fury. She wasn't just angry, she was foaming at the mouth with rage, hurling accusations so vile that my brain refused to process them. At first, she was claiming I had sought her daughter. I stood there, stunned, my ears still ringing from the slap. For a few precious seconds, I thought this has to be a misunderstanding. There was no way she actually believed this, but my parents rushed in demanding to know what was happening. And my aunt, with real gut-wrenching sobs, told them that my cousin had confessed everything to her, that she had been too terrified to speak up before. But after forcing the truth out of her, she now knew that I had violated her daughter. I remember looking at my parents in complete desperation, expecting them to at least hesitate, to at least ask me what the hell was going on instead. All I saw was disgust in their eyes. I was guilty before I had even opened my mouth. I shouted and pleaded them to listen to me, that I had done nothing, that this was a mistake, a misunderstanding, a lie. But nothing I said mattered. They didn't even consider for a second that I might be telling the truth. My father turned to my aunt and asked her not to go to the police, promising that they would handle it. I wasn't their son anymore. I was a problem they needed to contain. And then came the final humiliation. My aunt demanded that I apologize and never met her daughter. I was still in shock, still trying to process the fact that my entire world had just flipped upside down. But I knew one thing: if I didn't comply, things would get even worse. My parents weren't just disgusted. They were furious. They saw me as a monster, a disgrace. If I resisted, they might actually let my aunt call the police, and I had no proof. No one to back me up, so I did it. I forced out an apology for something I had never done. My parents just looked disappointed, like they thought I was finally admitting to it, and as punishment, they decided to send me away. I was packed off to a strict boarding school within a week. No trial, no discussion, no second chances. My parents called it a lesson in accountability. They told me they hoped the experience would fix me. That's what I was to them, something broken. I tried to protest, to tell them how insane this was, but they had already made up their minds the way they saw it. They were doing me a favor. My aunt had threatened police action, and this was their way of keeping me out of jail. I spent those first few weeks in boarding school in a haze of rage and disbelief. The worst part wasn't even the betrayal itself. It was the fact that my own parents had never once stopped to ask if the accusation made sense. I had never even been alone with my cousin. There were no signs, no history, nothing that should have pointed to me. And yet that didn't matter, because in their eyes the accusation was enough. I spent months stewing in anger, reliving that day over and over. Why would my cousin lie? What did she gain from this? So I started digging. Even though I was stuck at boarding school, I still had a few contacts at home. People who knew my cousin, people who had seen her at school, and bit by bit I started piecing things together. Turns out the real story was much simpler. My cousin had snuck her boyfriend into the house while her mother was away. But the aunt came home earlier than expected, catching a glimpse of some guy scrambling out of her daughter's window. Furious, she demanded to know who the boy was, and my cousin panicked, desperate, blurted out my name. That was all it took. She knew her mother would never question her. She knew my parents would take her side without hesitation, and worst of all, she bragged about it. She bragged to her friends that she had dodged punishment, that she had gotten away with sneaking around just by throwing me under the bus. I wasn't just collateral damage. I was her effing scapegoat. The rage I felt at that moment was unlike anything I had ever experienced. I had been cast out, humiliated, and disowned. And it was all because my cousin wanted to save her own skin, and my parents, my own flesh and blood, had thrown me away without a second thought. I knew. Right then, I couldn't just let this go. I had to clear my name. Knowing the truth wasn't enough. I needed proof I was still stuck at boarding school. But I wasn't about to let this go. I reached out to one of my old classmates, someone who had mutual friends with my cousin. Through them, I managed to get a lead on the guy she had been sneaking around with. Tracking him down wasn't easy, but I was relentless. This guy had ruined my life without even knowing it, and I needed him to confess when I finally confronted him. He panicked immediately. He was a coward. Someone who had gotten away with everything because my cousin had taken the fall for him. But I had leverage. His parents were strict and religious, the kind who would never tolerate their son sneaking into a girl's house if they found out what he had been up to. His life would become a living hell. So I gave him a choice: either come clean to my family, or I would make sure his own parents knew exactly what he had been doing behind their backs. He caved a week later. He sat down in my parents. Everything I should have felt triumphant. I should have felt relieved. But when I looked at my parents' faces, I knew this wouldn't change a thing. No apology, no justice. My father didn't look happy that I was innocent. He looked bitter, like he had lost an argument. He had bet everything on my mother wouldn't even meet my eyes. The aunt, she outright refused to acknowledge it. She dismissed the boyfriend's confession like it was some minor detail. My cousin, who had ruined my life, sat there pouting like she was the victim. They never apologize. Not once. The closest thing I got was my mother mumbling something about how they had just been trying to do the right thing. My father said, "Well, you did apologize, so you must have felt guilty about something." I saw red. I thought they would admit they had been wrong, but they wouldn't. They couldn't. Because if they did, they would have to acknowledge that they had thrown away their own son over and the final insult, they still sent me away. Not because I was guilty anymore, but because I had caused too much drama. Because I had embarrassed the family, because I had ruined my cousin's social life by exposing her. She became a pariah at school. After the truth came out, her boyfriend dumped her. The same people she had laughed with, the ones she had bragged to, now hated her. She wasn't the queen bee anymore. She was the outcast, and instead of blaming her, my parents blamed me. Boarding school, surprisingly, wasn't the nightmare I thought it would be. In a way, it was freedom. I didn't have to live under their judgment anymore. I made friends, I graduated, I built a life for myself, one that had nothing to do with my so-called family, and I never looked back for years. My parents tried to contact me. They called, left messages, and sent emails, most of them filled with guilt-tripping or outright insult. They would say I was ungrateful, that I was breaking my mother's heart, that I was being dramatic. I ignored every single one. Then about 5 years ago, they finally went silent, and I thought, good, I was free now. Out of nowhere, they've reached out again. Just a short email: "We miss you, please, just 5 minutes of your time on your terms." I should have deleted it. I should have ignored it, like I ignored every other attempt, but I didn't. And the reason my girlfriend, she was disowned by her own family for not following their religious beliefs. She wants her parents to reach out. She wishes they would try, and she thinks I should give mine a chance because she never got that chance herself. I don't know what to do after everything they put me through. Do they deserve another chance? Or should I let them stay dead to me? I've already lost them once. Maybe it's better that way. Edit: a lot of people were wondering if my cousin got off easy since my aunt never punished her. The answer: absolutely not sure. Her mom shielded her at home, but the real world didn't give a damn. The second the truth came out, my cousin's entire life fell apart, and the best part, she did most of the damage herself at first, when she lied about me. She wasn't just trying to save herself. She was bragging after pinning the blame on me. She actually laughed about it with her friends. She thought it was hilarious that she got away with sneaking her boyfriend into the house. She ran her mouth at school, treating it like a joke, talking about how clever she was for making me take the fall, and her friends laughed with her. They thought it was funny too, because they were the same kind of people she was, bullies. But the second I showed proof of her lies, the second her own boyfriend confessed, everything changed. Her friends weren't exactly eager to go down with her. They talked. They let slip how she had been bragging about it before she got caught. And instead of accepting that she'd been exposed, my cousin lost her mind. She went after her own friends, accusing them of betraying her, screaming at them in hallways, blaming them for ruining her life. She started bullying them, the same people who had been on her side. Well, guess what? They were bullies too, and they turned on her instantly when she went after her friends. They didn't just take it. They stripped her of everything. She was kicked out of her social circle overnight. They spread every nasty detail. About her, they let everyone know that she wasn't just a liar, she was a snake. Then it got physical. She had spent years intimidating other people, pushing them around thinking she was untouchable. But now no one was afraid of her anymore. She got into multiple fights and she lost. I heard about one incident where she shoved a girl into a locker and the girl turned around and beat the hell out of her right there in the hallway. Another time, she tried to corner one of her ex-friends in the bathroom, and that ended with her getting a black eye. She wasn't a queen anymore, she was a punching bag the last time things got physical. It was bad from what I was told. It was a full-on beatdown. She got jumped by a group of people. People she had bullied before, and no one stopped it, not teachers, not other students, no one cared. That was the final straw. My aunt pulled her out of school. Now you think after all this, my aunt would finally admit her daughter wasn't some innocent little angel. No, she still defended her, still insisted she was being targeted, unfairly blamed the school. The other kids, everyone except her daughter. That's why my cousin learned, that's why she'll never learn she had every opportunity to fix her life, and instead she chose to dig her own grave, and now she's the one buried in it. Update. First of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone who commented on my original post. Seriously. I wasn't expecting such an overwhelming response, and reading through your insights helped me put things into perspective. So here's what happened after my post, after reading through everyone's comments. I sat down with my girlfriend for a long, honest conversation. She admitted that she wasn't pushing for reconciliation. She just wanted me to listen to what my parents had to say. She felt that hearing them out just once might give me closure, but closure for whom I told her flat out I wasn't interested. Nothing they had to say would change the fact that they threw me away when I needed them most. There was no misunderstanding, no moment of weakness. They made their choice and I made mine. She listened, really listened to me, and in the end she nodded and said, okay, no more pushing, no more what ifs. She understood that was all I needed to hear after that. I wrote a reply to my parents' email. It wasn't nice, it wasn't forgiving, it was brutal. I laid out in excruciating detail how they ruined my life, how their blind loyalty to a proven liar cost them their son, how I had no respect for them and never would. And then just to twist the knife, I included a link to my Reddit post so they could read in full detail just how badly they effed up. And as for my aunt, I made it crystal clear that she was nothing more than an unhinged, delusional woman who assaulted an innocent teenager and never faced consequences for it. I ended it with one final statement: you threw me away once, stay gone. I hit send, and for a week I thought that was the end of it. I don't know how my mother found out where I live, maybe from old paperwork. Maybe she asked around. Either way, days after I sent that email, she showed up at my house crying, sobbing, apologizing. She was practically on her knees at my doorstep, begging for me to listen. I had never seen her like that before. She pulled out her phone and shoved a video in my face. It was my cousin, the one who ruined my life. Apologizing, saying she was young and scared, that she lied because she didn't know what else to do, that she was sorry for everything. And then my mom had the audacity to look me in the eyes and say, now it's your turn. It's time to forgive and let the past go. I hadn't even processed what she said before my girlfriend stepped in. She shoved my mother out the door and slammed it in her face. I stood there stunned while my mother continued sobbing outside, knocking, pleading. I let her knock for a full minute before I said through the door, if you don't leave, I'm calling the cops. She left after that. My girlfriend turned to me and apologized. She said she was wrong to push for me to hear them out, that seeing my mother pull that manipulative stunt in person made her realize just how toxic my family really was. She told me she was on my side fully, completely. And, let's just say that night, best as ex of my life. Now we're making sure my family never pulls that kind of stunt again. We're moving to a new place soon. Changing locks and installing cameras, I thought cutting them off 5 years ago was enough. Turns out, I had to do it twice, but this time it's permanent. Thanks again to everyone who helped me see the truth. I'm free now and I'm never looking back. Second story, my wife called our mutual friend's name in the middle of our Zax. I'm 27 meters in a fight with my wife, 27 feet after an incident during intimacy. For context, we high school sweethearts married for 6 years. We have a child, 3 months. We've been through a lot together. I love her deeply. Our marriage is in a rough patch. Our quality time as a couple is struggling. We're in counseling. We're working on making time for each other and reaffirming our bond. That's our current focus in counseling, Zia. And we're assigned intimacy exercises. Part of these exercises is for us to make a consistent, conscious effort for each other. We had a station to celebrate our anniversary while our son spent the weekend at his grandparents'. The trip was largely nice and we got to better focus on each other. But it took a turn. The night of our anniversary, we were cuddling, and it turned into more. My wife initiated it. She was really into it and expressive, and then out of nowhere she moaned another man's name. "Who's in our friend group?" We stopped immediately. There was no mistaking what she said. She looked stunned before recovering and treating it like a texting typo or something. When I questioned why she'd say another guy's name, let alone one of our friends, she swore it meant nothing, and that she was just consumed with what I was doing to her. I couldn't buy it. I don't believe it meant anything, not the passionate way she said it. I believe she was fantasizing about him while being with me. She insisted it wasn't like that, and was only a slip of the tongue. I asked why his name in particular first. She didn't know. Then said maybe because she was replying to his text earlier in the group chat. When I pushed back, she got defensive. She said I was making something out of nothing and how it didn't need to ruin our anniversary. I told her nothing she was saying was reaching me and I needed some time. She tried kissing me and initiating again, like nothing happened. But I turned her down the incident, put a damper on the rest of the trip. We haven't been intimate since, and any steps we've made forward with our exercises have taken a significant leap back. We're in a cycle of awkward silence, even in front of our son or her ignoring the elephant in the room. She's being extra affectionate now, but I can't shake what happened. I never thought twice about their friendship, but now I'm seeing past interactions differently. I love my wife. She and our son mean the world to me. I've been committed to working on our merit, but I'm at a loss here. I feel my wife isn't being honest and is attempting to rug sweep by pouring on affection. I'm left reconsidering everything. I don't know how to navigate forward. I need outside perspectives. TLDR, on our anniversary, my wife and I were intimate and she moaned another man's name during sex. The guys in our friend group. She downplayed it and said I was making something out of nothing. Now she's being extra affectionate. I don't believe she's being honest. I'm left reconsidering everything. How do I navigate this update thanks to everyone who reached out? I-27M couldn't reply to everything, but the outside perspectives helped. A general consensus was that my wife 27F and I issue should be tackled in therapy. I knew that's what I should have done, but I delayed. I was too embarrassed. The thought of bringing up what happened in counseling made it worse, but I knew it needed to be done. My wife didn't initially take kindly to it. She was defensive and accused me of throwing her under the bus. I disagreed. I wouldn't throw her under the bus either. The truth is, we never arranged topics in therapy beforehand. We argued over each other. Our therapist came through as a referee. She called for a timeout for us to recollect and to reflect on the objective being working towards a solution, not going at each other. We were able to actually talk once things cooled down. My wife was asked how she would feel if the roles were reversed. She admitted if I had said another woman's name while we were having sex, and on our anniversary, she wouldn't have handled it well at all. She apologized for downplaying my feelings while I appreciated her acknowledgement. I still thought she wasn't honest about why she said that guy's name. So I pressed. She said she didn't want to hurt me more than she already did. I told her she was hurting me by lying. She confessed that during a stint where we weren't having his ex, she had engaged in fantasies to satisfy herself. One of them was of our friend. I knew that she was talking about intimacy as a whole has been a struggle, but there was a point where we were abstinent, as we weren't even sharing a bed at the time. We'd argue, then leave to separate rooms. Or our son 3M would share the bed with us. I asked how long she's been fantasizing about him. She said off and on. He wasn't a constant fantasy. It wasn't necessarily about him, but more about the taboo. She swore that the fantasies meant nothing, that they were just scenarios to get her there, and nothing she would ever actually want. It was tough. But I tried hearing her out. Instead of shutting down, arguing wasn't getting us anywhere either. I can't relate to her about this. She's always been enough for me during good and bad times. I was always focused on her during intimacy. I told her that, while I knew our marriage wasn't perfect, I thought we were getting to a better place, and we were engaging in various forms of intimacy again. She claimed she doesn't indulge the fantasies anymore. I called bull because she did just that on our anniversary. Of all days, she insisted his name was only a slip of the tongue. Because she was replying to his texts in the group thread that day, she said she was consumed with what I was doing to her. And in the heat of the moment, his name slipped out when I asked why she didn't tell me all of this after the incident. She said she felt guilty and afraid for our marriage. She said our marriage was already in a state of recovery and she didn't want to blow everything up over a stupid mistake, she kept saying. She doesn't want him or anyone else. She only wants to be with me. And that's the whole reason why she's fighting for our marriage. The session was a lot. I was mostly quiet after she finished. She asked me to please say something, but all I could say was, I needed some time. I'm still sorting through how I feel. I believe she was more truthful, but it's difficult. Nor do I see things between her and our friend the same. I would like to work on my marriage, my wife, and our son. Mean the world to me. I want the best solution for everyone involved. Thank you again to everyone. I appreciate the support. TLDR update 4 on our anniversary. My wife and I were intimate and she moaned another man's name during his ex. The guys in our friend grew. She downplayed it and said I was making something out of nothing. Now she's being extra affectionate. I don't believe she's being honest. I'm left reconsidering everything. Third story girlfriend was jealous of my mom, disrespected her, and now has lashed out at me for eating my mom's cupcake on my birthday instead of hers. So I broke up with her and she physically assaulted me and broke my arm. Now her family and friends are harassing me. I've been with my current girlfriend for almost 3 years and we pretty much get along for most things. Except when it comes to my mother is mentally slow. I don't know what else to call it since she grew up pretty rough and was never formally diagnosed. And had me at 13, her being physically and emotionally younger made her a fun mom, just not very responsible. In any case, this is one of the main reasons my girlfriend friend feels uncomfortable around my mom, because she says she has no manners and can be rude, both of which can be true at times. But my mom doesn't do things intentionally. It's just how she was raised and it's hard to teach her new things. The second reason is that I spend a lot of money for my mom to live in an expensive facility community so she can be independent, but still have some help. She thinks it's a waste of money, especially since she wants to be able to buy a big house in the future, and I refuse to pay her medical insurance despite having the money. She's currently on a plan that she can't afford, which she brings up a lot in arguments. She's not my wife, so I don't want to commit to something like that yet. Since I'm not sure how that would work if she ever decided to end the relationship or if it increased to something I'd rather not pay. I won't lie, I love my girlfriend, but she's not my wife, therefore not a priority. And I've tried proposing twice and been turned down each time anyways. I feel like I derailed for a second. But I felt some context was important this year. She decided to make me a cake for my birthday. I was happy because she's a great baker and even better at decorating. So I asked for a chocolate sheet cake with canned frosting and rainbow sprinkles. She said it was fine, but kept suggesting I have something special and less cheap. This year, my mom has made me this birthday cake every year since I was a child. But of course this year she couldn't. And I told her I was sure that's what I wanted. No presents and no people over when I woke up the morning of my birthday. She had me eat breakfast in the living room because the dining room and kitchen were a mess. I'm not sure if I believe that Nan got me up and out of the house after lunch, telling me it still wasn't ready, and I couldn't see it because she also had a really small surprise as well. I come back an hour later as she'd asked, and when I open the door to pretty much everyone we know, and even don't know. Well, except my mom. Her parents are there, they leap out. And with those blow things, I tried to act happy, but to be honest, I didn't want anyone there at all. If it had just been our families, maybe it would have been nice, but I was secretly annoyed. Then, when I saw the cake, it wasn't anything like what I asked for. It was 3 round lemon creme cakes, the naked fancy kind with flowers and berries. It looked incredible, and I could tell it must have taken ages, but it's not what I wanted. And I'm pretty neutral about lemon desserts. Everyone brought gifts, and I tried to pretend that I liked them, and I did. But in the moment, I just didn't feel like opening and reacting to gifts. So I feel like my reactions were underwhelming. Then when it was time to cut the cake, she gave me a big piece and I didn't even finish half of it. I wasn't in the mood. I just lied and said I was too full from eating all of her favorite foods. I'll admit that was a bit too blunt, especially since there was company and she was a little short with me the rest of the party. Finally, my mom comes just after everyone finishes, and according to my girlfriend, she accidentally told her the wrong time. She brought me a single cupcake, just how I like it as a gift, because she couldn't make the cake this year. I was happy and I couldn't hide it. My girlfriend noticed and kind of gave my mom the stink eye, which is fine, as long as she wasn't being rude. But then she took it a step further, and just outright made a bad joke about how the cupcake was unique, like, My mom, she still likes dresses and 2 ponytails, and a few people even laughed fast forward to. Later, I'm eating my cupcake in bed, hoping to end the day on a good note. I didn't complain at all outside of that one comment because I didn't want to seem too ungrateful. But then she said under her breath that of course I'd rather eat something that looks like it was made by a toddler than actual quality. That was the last straw for me. We got into a heated argument, so I ended up sleeping on the couch on my own birthday the next morning. I made it clear that I wasn't going to eat any of her desserts until she apologized. It's been 3 days. She told everyone that I hated the party, and now everyone is calling me ungrateful. Plus, her family found out I don't pay her insurance. And right now, things are on and off tense and not tense between us. Am I the Arlie here? Edit, not an update. I just wanted to say that I read all the comments and now I'm strongly considering just biting the bullet and saying I don't care, especially since she only knows of both because I told her not due to actual evidence. It's just not something I wanted to be outed for metaphorically and literally. But in any case, I guess the statute of limitations in my state would have already passed for me. Finale, right? When we started dating. So at least, if things go south, I can finally get the plastic surgery I've always wanted. And a new name trying to make myself feel angry, and not funny though. But it's hard because she always makes me feel sad. And then happy again after. But I'm gonna tell her we aren't twin flames or anything close anymore, and probably update when I feel better if things get intense. Fortunately, my mom is happy as always. And we talk every day for those wondering. She's so nice. She doesn't always notice when people are being mean, so I won't and would never tell her how my ACT girlfriend truly felt about her if she asks why things are going wrong. Second, another thing that I just wanted to add is that my mom fortunately was not a victim. The comments think that made me irrationally sad. For some reason, my father was the same age. I don't know if he had a disability, but he was pretty strange in a good way. He didn't talk much, but he liked drawing the same types of birds and flowers, and they got along well. And she was loved. I just didn't mention him because, well, he's dead anyway. Sorry, I have a tendency to get long-winded and over-explain, but I'm going to sleep now. Relevant comments, Kitty Roo. Why are you with this woman? She refused your proposal twice, doesn't listen to what you want, and she's disrespectful towards your mother. In short, it's partially because she's good at being loving when she wants to, and she has something that she said she'd use against me. But that's a longer story, and mostly my fault. Barred mama. Those aren't good enough. Reasons I'm sorry is what she has against you, so god awful that it's worth spending any more time with this creature. The fact she has even said that makes her despicable. She doesn't even want to marry you, which is actually a good thing for you. Good luck, dude. It is unfortunate. I used to make adult videos and scam people to pay for school. It's not something I'm proud of or can completely get rid of. I'm a changed person. But that doesn't change the past or what my job would think since I work with private school children. Mismatched socks. If she's blackmailing you, she doesn't love you. Update added context because the edit in my original post wasn't clear. I added it in the comments. But in case it's still confusing, it's also here. Since the post is already long, I guess I'll comment instead. Maybe I'm just a terrible writer when I'm tired. But writing this a few hours ago felt like it would make sense. So sorry to make it make sense. I used to make adult videos mostly with other men. So I don't want anyone to know. Second, I used to scam dates by using their credit card information online to buy textbooks and personal items because I could only really afford food. But it was still bad, and sometimes I wonder if they didn't eat so I could. And it makes me paranoid. Even if I can't go to jail now, I can still be socially ostracized. And plastic surgery is just that if my social life is ruined, I can buy a new face and name. I was half joking also for those wondering. I didn't mention the reason why my girlfriend rejected my marriage proposal twice is because it sounds really bad to people who don't understand what it's like to live with someone disabled. I love my mother dearly, but in all honesty, I would not want to have children like her. They won't have any easy life, and that basically, the reason she thinks I might pass on bad genes, I'd like to try to have at least one child anyway because I don't have any disabilities. So I'm hoping my child would be healthy as well. But I don't think not wanting to adopt or take a chance is a bad reason to reject someone. In any case, I decided to take the coward's way out and leave for work excessively early to avoid her, and I put a breakup note in her lunch bag. I'm expecting to feel awful later, so I think I'll update again when I'm not sad, which takes me a while, and again, I'm sorry for rambling. Another thing I also saw mentioned while reading replies is that twin soul is controversial, and I'm sorry. And I wasn't intentionally being misogynistic. I've just seen it used and thought it meant some of the same things as soulmate actual update. She read the note and wasn't mad, she just said she wanted to talk things over. But when I get there, she's pretty mad. And because apparently her co-worker saw the note and how pathetic leaving a note is in hindsight. I wasn't thinking and agree the rest is just a blur. We got into a physical fight which we've gotten into before, but never this bad. And I ended up breaking my forearm. She was throwing things as I was walking away and I was crying. So I slipped. Then the ride to the her was probably the worst I felt in my life. I was still crying while they were trying to ask me questions, and then they either gave me something, or I passed out. Either way, when I woke up she apologized, but I could tell she was still a little mad because she got food and didn't offer me any after I get discharged. We get home, get into another argument, and I get mad and tell her she can leave. Her sister lives less than an hour away, so she'd be fine. Eventually she agrees to leave, but she left most of her things here. She told me I have 3 days to pack up her stuff so her parents can come get it, which is fair. I guess I'm wondering if I should pack the ring in with her stuff because looking at it now is humiliating. Surprisingly, she only made 2 posts about it on social media, and it's only very vaguely exposing things I've done. It's not as bad as I thought it would be. And almost all of my friends felt bad. But a few her friends first have blocked me or left me angry. Texts. Her mom sent a voicemail crying and saying how disappointed they were in me. And honestly, I do feel a little bad for them because that's their daughter. It must feel sad, but I really just want to leave her stuff outside without talking to them. I haven't told my mom anything yet because I know she'll worry. I don't have an appetite right now because there's still leftover cake in the fridge and looking at it just makes me tired. I think I'm going to take a break from dating for a while and work on being happy alone. Because right now, all I want to do is call and apologize. Relevant comments a Mullen 214. If this is true. Are you pressing charges, Op? No. Since I technically broke my own arm. Plus it would be beyond mortifying to file a police report. A Mullins 214. What about a protective order since you said there was a physical fight, Op? She's strong but not violent. So I doubt I have to worry about her trying to fight me ever again. Unplaned is dead. She threw things at you. She's abusive. I'm glad you're getting out of an abusive relationship where you had to walk on eggshells out of fear of how she would react. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.